I got another sponsor on the screen here, Ian Schuster, who he's got an update for the group, but I'm also really curious to hear the two of you interact, and he may be he and his product, as you'll soon see, may be kind of an interesting interview topic on a podcast. I'm just very curious to hear you guys have a short conversation. So Ian, why don't you give us your update, and let's see where you guys take it from here.
Yes, yeah, thank you for that kind of segue in, because I had some questions, but I didn't want to look like I was too self-serving.
Sure.
But so Natural Xpression, we are a bespoke supplements company. So basically, I think I chatted about 4 weeks ago here, and at the time we were 1 week away. Well, we just launched 3 days ago, but that's the fun of getting started. But what we do is we take so the customer will take a DNA test, they'll take a microbiome test, they'll take a cognitive assessment test, and then they'll walk through a general interview. So based on their wellness priorities, what they want to accomplish, based on their natural propensities, proclivities, things akin to that, based on the current state with the microbiome, we will actually weave together and actually detail the perfect dietary supplements, really, for not the super fancy, like super advanced stuff, or not medicine, but basically all the letters, all the key minerals, the kind of things that will replace your dailies. And then we'll also do specific, if you have specific cognitive desires or cognitive training or cognitive shortcomings, we can hit those. Same too with microbiome, so specific bacterial strands. So a lot of science in it, and the fun consuming us the past few weeks has been the IT side of it, and then trying to get the websites to work. So I enjoyed the first 5 minutes of today when we were talking about how the buttons just don't show up.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you, that's been the cause of a lot of lost sleep here. And the part that I'm getting excited about now is, now that we're getting some of the startup bugs out, and we've got a lot of the cleaning up. And so actually, Robert, you and Jill, I don't know if Jill's hiding behind the submarine there, but I saw an arm.
I saw the arm.
Unbelievable resource. I've gotten this screen, and also Pat. I don't think she's on right now, but I got you because of you guys. We look significantly less embarrassing now than we did 48 hours ago.
Right.
All the cleanup stuff, because we focused on getting the right supplements together. We focused on getting the process together, and the IT and like making the website look pretty came the last minute. But now it's good. We've done our sort of pre-alpha launch 3 days ago with just a handful of people who, I guess exactly what when Jason talks about really the benefits of the Ring Knocker community, we decided launching it here is the first people we've actually spoken to. It's perfectly tailored. And it's a great way to communicate an information dense message. And so this is kind of my transition to the podcasting element, in that I know I used to work in like a Philip Morris, and we had the Miller brand. And when we would look at the way we would try to get our message out, and we would look at a universe of different channels that we could hit. And number one, until it went away from us, was of course television, because that's just what big companies like to spend their money on, right? And back in the days, it was print, but that's really gone away. Radio was something we never really did much, because it was ridiculously expensive, even for a big blue chip. And also, if we would get a spot, radio suffered from the fact that, it's initially one of the less emotionally evoking things compared to vision, which is like 40% of your brain circuitry, compared to olfactory, which is the only one that goes straight from the bulb to the emotional parts of the brain rather than being routed. And different from taste because it merges with olfactory so early on, so they're really colorful. Auditory, the orals were always the ones that were considered the most removed. However, what I actually learned, because I carried the stigma against radio into, when I started the brewery a few years ago, or like 10 years ago. And my epiphany day came when I was giving this interview on a podcast, and we actually had a beer that used a 45 million year old yeast. And this guy who actually is the guy Jurassic Park was written about. they took a lot of liberality, if that's a word, in putting that story together. But this Jurassic Park real story is the guy found yeast in amber in Burma, and he brought the yeast back to life. And it's just yeast, so there's no great drama, no dinosaurs. But it was fascinating. And this yeast actually turned out to be brewer's yeast. So fast forward, I'm on this podcast trying to, sell up this new beer. And it was my first time ever being on a podcast. And what I've realized is as I'm going and talking, I'm doing things like, oh yeah, it was this big. And I'm using my hands a lot. And so then when we go into, and I didn't have any training. I was too arrogant to think I needed that. But when we went into break, I said to the podcast host, I said, oh my God, I'm using my hands, aren't I? And he says, no, it's okay, because what happens is, well, as long as it's not too complex, the audience is filling in the visual as they go along. So not only when I say this big, do they actually see it, but I also look just like Brad Pitt, and and I realized that podcast median, where else are you going to get 30 minutes of being able to talk on that? And actually the visual can be a distraction, because if they actually see me, they'll be like, oh, that's not Brad Pitt. But it's amazing. Well, anyway, looping back to the story here. 3 days ago, we launched. We came out with the website went live. So now that we're significantly less embarrassing, we're looking for the next stage of pre-alphas. So if any of you guys have been waiting since I mentioned it earlier, or since we mentioned, we're now available to take sort of that another like 10, 11, 12-ish groups. So if you have some friends who might be interested in it as well, it's normally about $500, but we've got the alpha discount down to $319.96, $319.96, because that was the last real plebe year. And
you got to say for how long? It's not per month.
No, that's for a full 6-month period.
There you go.
So normally it's $500 for 3 months, but we're doing basically $319.96 for 6 months. And that's simply because we're going to screw some things up, like the websites. And we might not hit the 2-week thing. It might be 2 weeks and a half as we do with this. It was operational. We're still working through some operational hiccups, but we're ready to take on some more people. So if anybody's interested, it's www.natural-expression, singular, but there's no E, because when we were looking for domains, that was taken. natural-expression.com. And so there it is. So we'll get your DNA microbiome and cognitive test, ordered up right away. And then it is about 5 weeks till results come in, a couple weeks after that, to start getting the supplements. But
outstanding.
So it's exciting.